Thank you all so much. Sorry. Thank you all so much for coming. I really, really appreciate you spending your session for this virtual session. There's a lot of good stuff going on, so I really appreciate you spending your time with me. And so my name is, come on, slides, there we go. My name is Hope Foley, and I am a data and AI cloud solution architect. I feel like I have like my title is even kind of buzzwordy. So I focus on data and AI, with my customers, and I'm actually focused on education, the education vertical within Microsoft. I used to support commercial customers, but now I focus on education. So I help a lot of higher education, universities, and also K-12s. So, but I joke, I'm the nerd they take to a lot of meetings to talk from the tech side, to kind of a technical pre-sales. I do a lot of POCs and help with data architecture. I was a consultant, thank you. Consultant for several years, former Microsoft MVP, and I've been running a local. I'm pretty passionate about helping folks and make sure that the opportunities I was given is out there. The opportunities that I was given, I want to make sure are out there for others. And I've run, it's called SQL Saturday, but it's not just about SQL. So it's kind of a data focused event that I've put on for, we were supposed to have our 10th this year. Our 10th will actually be whenever this darn COVID thing gets done. So so we had to put it on pause for this year, but I'm pretty passionate about getting folks involved and making sure that people can find this path that I was given. So so I run a local data event. All right. So I know some folks in my last session were asking how I got here, and that's kind of the gist of the entire session. And so this is, I'm sharing a few slides and pictures that are a little bit embarrassing. This is actually me, one of my senior pictures. I grew up in Anderson. I don't know if there's, shout out to any Anderson folks if they're on, holler in chat if you're from Anderson. So I grew up in Anderson, and when I was in high school, we were digging through my, Cooper, I was digging through my old high school yearbooks, and I totally kind of forgot that I had ever even said that I wanted to do this. But in one of my yearbooks, it was saying I wanted to be a chiropractor. The universe knew better than I did back then. But actually, when I graduated high school, I graduated from Madison Heights in Anderson, and went to IU for my first year of school. But when I told these these folks that help you figure out your major, I told them that I wanted to own a gym one day. So I definitely did not, I definitely didn't kind of have a technology career focus. You guys are actually, if you guys are thinking about it, you're a little ahead of the game, more ahead of the game than I was. I told these poor people that were trying to help me figure out my major that I wanted to own a gym one day, which seems craziness to me now looking back. So they put me in kind of they put me in a major at IU for my first year, kind of toying with the idea of sports management. That was the closest thing they could figure for me for a major with wanting to own a gym one day. And kind of around the same time, my freshman year of high school, or no, my freshman year of college, I apologize, I started chatting. So this was back, the internet was fairly new. I'm trying not to date myself too much, but the internet was fairly new. I would go down to the college lab, and they had something called bulletin board systems. These were Telnet bulletin board systems, and I would chat with friends in these. And a friend of mine said, "You're really good at that computer stuff." Was just something that my friend said. So I was like, yeah, that's kind of an interesting idea. And at the same time, I had heard that, I was hearing that computers was, computer information systems or computer technical careers were a male-dominated field. I was always one that I like to catch more fish than the guys. I like to play pool better than, I was always trying to beat the guys at these kind of traditional guy games, just to, I'm a competitive person and I like to win, and I always like to kind of show up the guys a little bit. So the idea that the technology career path was a male-dominated field kind of added fuel to my fire of like, oh, well, if they can do it, I can do it too. So I actually was a little intrigued by the idea of, one, getting a decent paycheck, and two, being in a male-dominated field. Well, didn't put me off. It kind of added fuel to my fire. So I switched gears from sports management and started, for my second semester of college, I started focusing on, okay, let's say I change my field to computer information systems or whatever the term was for that field at IU. And some of my very first classes toying with that at IU were so difficult and so hard. One of the first classes I had it was basically a professor who wrote the language. There wasn't much information on it. It wasn't, if I had ran away from that experience, I can't imagine where my life would be right now. So my first classes were kind of difficult. And at the same time, I come from a poor background. My mom didn't have, a ton of money to send me to school. I was kind of working my way through, and I was like, it's too expensive to be lost at IU. If I'm going to do this career, computer thing, let's try Ivy Tech. So I actually have an associate's. It was too expensive for me to stay at IU and do that. So I actually went to Ivy Tech and graduated from Ivy Tech with an associate's. And so my first gig, they actually, they called me, actually, let me go ahead and switch the slide here so I can kind of talk through this. My first gig here, on my resume, it says EDI developer. I honestly didn't even really know what that meant. It was the first gig anybody will hire me for in a technical thing. I was tired of being a waitress and said, okay, let's do whatever this gig is. Turns out, I don't know if the intent was, I don't know exactly what an EDI developer does, but if it was what I was doing, it was a lot of copying and pasting with spreadsheets. So, but it was a technical gig and I wasn't waiting tables. So that was great. Kind of my real first gig was, it used to be called Conseco. They actually changed their name. So Conseco is an insurance company in Indianapolis. They hired me. They called me an application developer. Did you get that first gig right out of college? It took me a little while, honestly. If you're going into a computer field, do not be discouraged. It could take a while, and you might have to take a gig that isn't exactly in line with what you were doing. When I got my my associate's degree, I thought I was going to be what was called a network administrator back then. But my path definitely changed. a lot of times I see people kind of doing help desk, or, don't be concerned if your first gig isn't your dream or your exact path. Gosh, I feel like it took me probably like 6 months to get that first gig. How did you stay motivated? I needed to pay the bills. Bills are very motivating. I wanted to make more money than my tips would allow. I was at a Mexican restaurant waiting tables, so those bills were looking me in the face. So Conseco hired me as an application developer, but it was really just kind of a tier two help desk support for certain financial reporting applications there. I got along pretty well with the DBA group. So they had a lot of the guys I would work with. Some of the guys that were just more fun to work with, and they were good guys. I'm still friends with some of them to this day. I was like, well, I'd like to go work on that team. And they were all Oracle DBAs. DBA is a database administrator, if you're not familiar. So I thought I wanted to be an Oracle database administrator next. I was like, okay, let me do that. And they didn't have an Oracle spot, but they had a SQL Server spot. I was like, okay, cool. I just enjoyed that team. So I was like, okay, I'll learn that. So they trained me as a SQL Server DBA, and that kind of got me into finally, and I was probably at least 5 years at out and doing stuff before I ended up in the data career. So they hired me as a DBA, and then from there, I became a database consultant for a company called PTI, Perpetual Technologies, a local consulting company. So they would kind of dole me out to other companies, and I would do database administration. So check their SQL servers, making sure data was backed up, and those things. I did that for 7 years. And part of the consulting gig, they always would try and get me to speak. And initially I said, no, I would rather walk on broken glass than speak in public. But I don't know, sometimes the universe kind of whispers to you a little bit. And deep inside, I knew I was supposed to speak, and I didn't quite know why. And I remember they would have these events, and I finally started doing some training sessions, and my stomach was a mess. I was nauseous. I think I had the pink bottle next to me, maybe not exposed, but in my backpack. But it got easier, and it was one of those things that helped me kind of notch myself up, and I got pretty passionate about speaking. I'm obsessed with presenting well and doing those things, and those speaking engagements got me involved in a community. The SQL Saturdays I started running the one locally to bring speakers and things here. I was a business intelligence consultant for a little bit, so I shifted focus from database administration to business intelligence for a couple years as a consultant. And then a couple years into that, Microsoft called. And if Microsoft calls, you pick up the phone. And so someone had recommended me for a gig at Microsoft, and that's how I ended up where I am today. So let me see here. I'm gonna try and make sure to answer some questions. What title should how do you stay motivated? I think I answered some of those. Let me check the sheet. What title should we aim to get? I think, if you have a certain, so if you're a developer and you know it in your bones, you should definitely gear your direction. But I was very zigzag and I always talk to database administrators a lot when I'm out, and I don't know that anybody really gets into database administration in school. It's one of those happy circumstances that took me to that gig. So I would say be flexible. You might find jobs that you didn't realize existed potentially, and or things that you find passion. And data was definitely one that I've been passionate about data for a long time. So would you recommend getting a job beforehand and apply while working at another job? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't want to jump around an excessive amount. That could look interesting on a resume. You know, I always wonder if, you know, there's too much going on there. But absolutely, people got to pay the bills, and responsibility sometimes trumps what's going on. So, yeah, I don't think that you know, getting a gig before you apply to any others would, you know, unless you kind of just keep excessively jumping around. So is IT still a growing field? Absolutely. Absolutely. Or I'm pretty biased. I work at Microsoft, so I'm definitely focused more on like technical careers, but I get recruiters hitting me up constantly. Data is one of those ever growing, you know, so data is one of those things, and gosh, you know, every other day it seems like there is a new toaster that comes out that, you know, collects data. You know, the Internet of Things, those things only it only creates more data to kind of harness and keep your hands around. Companies, it doesn't matter what company, you know, from the smallest to the biggest, they're all trying to get their arms around data in some fashion or capacity. So I would say definitely IT is definitely a growing field. Yeah, definitely still growing. And I'm definitely focused on data. There's so many more gigs. I mean, data science is an exploding. You can't get enough data science skills, it seems, in any company. So yeah, it's absolutely. How much money did you make on your first gig? It was not much. I want to say, I'll be open and honest. I want to say my first gig out, I was making like 30 grand. So that it was time, you know, I was not, you know, I wasn't making make it rain money initially. So, you know, what made you want to talk about your career today? I'm hoping maybe there's some, you know, somebody that's listening picks up a nugget of something I say, whether they, you know, they take something that I say and it's helpful to them. So that's really just why I'm sharing today, is that I'm hoping someone out there will hear something I say and it'll resonate or give them a thought that helps their path going forward. Man, you guys are this is great. I'm kind of watching this document. I'm going to jump to some skills really quick. I think I got till, yeah, I can always forget the time on this one. So 105. So I want to make sure to share some skills, and I'm going to jump back to the questions, but man, keep them coming. I really appreciate the interactivity. So skills that I think will help. I want to make sure that you guys know that, I don't know, I was very intimidated. I've been intimidated and had kind of imposter syndrome my whole life. I'm not exceptionally intelligent. I think being stubborn has actually helped me more in my career in IT than anything. I'm willing, you know, there are some people where I read their blog posts, they're brilliant, but I have to read it like 3 or 4 times before I understand and kind of like, oh, have my Oprah aha moment and go, oh, well, why didn't they just say it like X? And you know, I interpret it my way. And a lot of times people have told me I'm able to break down technology to make it a little more simple and easy. And I think that part of it is just being stubborn enough to learn, relearn things. And I think it's really helped me. So being stubborn has been one of the things that's been helpful to me. Being curious. I always am trying. I want to learn all the time. Being at Microsoft, they're very much about growth mindsets and those kind of things. So being curious and digging into the technology, and you have to kind of stay curious. I'm constantly, even if it's a topic I know pretty well, I'm constantly having to relearn, or especially with the pace of technology, it changes all the time. And it's also, the cloud. I deal with the cloud technologies a lot, and they change on a month-by-month basis. So I have to stay constantly curious and learning. I don't sit still well. I think ADD has helped me a little bit too, because I want to learn, and I also am, trying to learn as much and learn all these different technologies, which has been helpful for my career, because I have to cover a lot of ground. One thing I wanted to share as well is this isn't really a skill you really strive for, but being a little spiteful has helped me a little bit. It kind of helped me in that, well, this is a male dominated field. That kind of spite sent me in that direction in the first place, that I could do it. But I also had people in my path that told me I couldn't, or would just be jerks about it. There's a lot of ego in IT. A lot of smart, brilliant people might want, and a lot of people almost weaponize their intelligence to be jerks. I've had some of those I've run into. So I've had people that you probably have people in your life that come to mind when they say you can't, or you feel like that they say you can't. I've had people that have done that too, and I use that as ammunition. So one of the things that my kids tell me all the time, I want to hang it up. One of the things I tell my kids is, go ahead, and one of my favorite things that I say to them is, go ahead and tell me I can't, because it'll aggravate me enough to get really passionate and prove you wrong. So I have used spitefulness as ammunition for pushing myself to be successful. But I put it with the grace piece. Some of the people that would just be jerks, I would surpass them, but I would do it quietly and try and show more grace than they showed me. So if you're out there and you're using that as ammunition, try and be show a little grace, try and show a little class, and maybe you keep that that in your faceness in your head, but use it as ammunition. So I wanted to make sure to cover a few technical skills. I didn't want to just give you soft, fluffy stuff either. But technical skills, Spark, I'm talking to a lot of customers a lot, and Spark is a skill that I'm actually learning more and more all the time. So I came from SQL Server background, or relational database structure, to big data. And Spark, it seems, is used in a lot of different technologies. So big data technology called Spark is something that I'm learning a lot more, and I'm seeing in a lot of our technologies. So if you have the opportunity to learn Spark, I recommend it. Something I learned a long time ago was PowerShell, and it's helped me in every different avenue that I have. I use it all the time, constantly to this day. It's a kind of command line. It's not really one of those, you know, it's not like .NET, C# or those kind of languages, but it's a command line shell language that you can use to build things, automate things. I used it a lot in my database days, DBA days for automation, and I still use it a lot today. Any language you can learn is going to help you with the logic. I feel like I can read most languages today. I'm not going to sit there and type out, you know, R. R is one that's difficult for me, but any language to learn the concepts. SQL Server, T-SQL language was one of the first that I learned. But anything that helps you any language will help you understand logic going forward. Python and R are definitely common languages I run into. It seems like Python is definitely more, not that, you know, Python and R are in a you know, sharks and jets kind of standoff or anything, but I feel like Python is getting a little bit more love than R initially, a little more flexibility in it, but I'm seeing a lot of Python. I am still seeing a lot of R, especially in those use cases that involve data science. Python and R are kind of the most common and prevalent languages for that. I think that. One other thing is analytics. I'm partial to Power BI, and honestly, Excel is even kind of something you can use for analytics, but I build really, you know, help customers build, you know, data infrastructure, but usually kind of the last mile, a lot of times for any infrastructure is the visualization. So having some level of analytics capabilities is helpful. So. And I'm seeing more questions, and I'm to the question slide. So let me see here. I really appreciate it, and I hope this is helpful. And please let me know if anything has been helpful or you would like to reach out. I'm going to actually put this slide up since this is more helpful. I'm on Twitter. This is also my email. Feel free if you have, if you want more information, I am willing to help however I can. So let me go back. How much education did you get on the job from ETH? Oh, wait, what is the hardest job? From Logan. The hardest job, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, work, any job is going to have its, you know, it's not, I love my job. I get to learn. My job is basically to learn technology and share it with customers and come to meetings prepared. This is a dream job, but it's not unicorns and rainbows. I still have my, you know, boring meetings, people that communication is hard. Make sure to I can know everything under the sun about a topic, but if I can't relay it and communicate it effectively to others, then it's you know, as useful as a paperweight. So I'm always trying to make sure I'm communicating well. But any job, you know, no job is rainbows and unicorns all day. So. What was your first thoughts when Microsoft reached out to you? It was like, oh my gosh, you really, you know, I was having like one of those, they like me, they really like me moments. So that was I was extremely honored that the person who thought of me, they knew me from presenting. So that was something to make sure if you are out there and you're trying to get hired by anybody, Microsoft or otherwise, you know, people are looking at a stack of papers and resumes, or, you know, maybe electronic. They're looking at a stack of folks, and anything that you can do, whether it's certifications or speaking, or I had a Microsoft MVP accredited, you know, that was something that kind of notched me upward. Speaking's not for everyone as well. Blogging, you know, find something that you can do to kind of set yourself apart from anybody. That'll work for Microsoft or others. So, and I see a lot of A lot of those. So you still work? Yes, I do still work for Microsoft. I've been there just over 5 years now. So yeah, I'm so honored to do this gig. Were your first gigs difficult? Man, yeah, Zachary, they were so difficult. I felt like I went to school and, man, God bless teachers and the things that they teach and everything. But I felt like when I got out of school and went to my first gig, I felt like I knew nothing. And I'm like, wow, they taught me all, they taught me these things. I felt like I was walking on the moon the first time when I was in that gig. So yeah, the first gig was definitely difficult. And I felt like I knew nothing from school. So don't worry if you get out and like, I remember there were just the easiest things. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this. So I had those moments of like, wait, what did they teach me? And I know you guys are getting that. There were so many things. I'm never going to use this. But sometimes those things creep up. But yeah, don't be discouraged if you get a gig and it's not anything like you expected. Man, I feel like I'm in a bad spot of high school and I feel like I'm just stuck. Have you ever felt like this before you met your career? Absolutely. I'm sitting there a little bit like that with my my kids are a little older now. I have a daughter who's 15, a son who's 12, and like they do their own things more. I feel like I'm stuck and got to figure out like the next thing I do, and maybe mentoring. I was thinking about actually doing some mentoring. So yeah, I definitely feel you on the stuckness, and I've felt like that before. So yeah, do not. I thought I wanted to be a chiropractor for a few minutes. So yeah, don't. I feel you, and don't fret anything like that, dude. Gosh, I wish I could stay so much longer and answer all of these, and I might hang out if they didn't kick me out till I got to hang around a little bit longer for the next one, so I will try and answer all of these. So what did you know? When did you know that your job was the right fit for you? You know what? And that is something like I feel like I was always told, oh, find your passion, follow your passion. Data was never like, oh, I'm passionate about that, I'm going to go there. It just happenstanced for me. But when I got there, I feel like anybody could find things they love in any job, whether I'm a janitor or a data and AI cloud solution architect. I feel like you can find ways to share your passion or share what you have out in the world, no matter what. So I don't know that I ever was like, aha, definitely I had a little bit of that when I went to Microsoft, but I don't know that I ever like I was destined or passionate about it, but I found ways to like organizing that event to bring more people into this career path. This is also something I'm passionate about too, is data is a path that you don't necessarily have to go down a 4-year degree and do there are ways to do it without any degrees at all. I got an associate's and found my way. It might be harder, and having a prestigious something might. So I'm pretty passionate about helping others find this career path, because like I have so many people, my family was working paycheck to paycheck growing up. So I feel like it's a good solid career path. Recruiters hit me up all the time, and I feel like it's one that I'm very passionate about. So if you want help, need help, and I know I'm getting close on time, I'll try and stick around and answer more questions. But I hope this was helpful. Please let me know if you have additional questions. Reach out. If you liked it, tweet, thumbs up. I hope this, my experience is helpful. But I know you guys got to get to the next one. So I appreciate you spending your time with me. I'm going to hang out and answer some more questions, and I'll flip over to the chat window and just see some of what folks are saying. So thank you so much for spending this time. Time is precious. So I really appreciate you guys spending it with me. What games do you play, if I may ask? I need to find more games. I feel like I need more hobbies now that the pandemic is. I have Among Us on my phone, but I've not actually played it. My son wants me to, so I am a bit of a new. I'm a curious gamer. I don't know where I'm going to go gaming wise, but yeah, games. I gamer wise, don't know. What are some common challenges you have faced while working in all of your gigs? People are a common challenge. Communication. I go down rabbit holes a lot, so I have to try and keep my. I try and stay focused without going down too many rabbit holes, and spending time where in rabbit holes I shouldn't is a common thing I run into. So yeah, hope that. Isn't PowerShell like an advanced command? Yeah, actually it is. Yeah. PowerShell is exactly it. It is not the snazziest or jazziest of languages, but it's one that I feel like is helpful across industries and technologies and on-prem, in the cloud. Yeah, it is. How long did it take you to be this skilled to be hired by Microsoft? So I was 7 years at that gig at an insurance company. I was 7 years at one consulting shop, and then 2 years. So that's 7, 14, 16 years before Microsoft called me. That's not the, I know Microsoft folks that get in, they have something called mock hires, which are essentially interns. There are crazy young people that are working at Microsoft. So your mileage may vary. I'm amazed by some of the people that work here. A friend of mine, he's actually a data scientist, and he's much younger than me. Well, I won't say much younger, but he feels much younger than me. So I wouldn't. That's my experience and how many years it took me, but there are definitely much younger folks that find their path sooner than I did, and I'm amazed by them all the time. I know I'm not supposed to ask this, but how old were you when you were hired by Microsoft? I'm 42, and so that was 42 minus 5. So yeah. Yeah, I was 30. Is that 37? Right? Yeah. So I was about 37 when I got hired at Microsoft. And I won't, Alex, I'm not mad at you for asking. What language was very difficult for you? I struggle with DAX sometimes. It's a language that's actually used within Power BI that's based on the formula language of Excel. That's one that's given me struggles lately. It's fun. I try and get better with it all the time. Hi. Sorry, Jill. Yeah, I know I'm over. Time for the students to head to the next one. I know, but I want to stay and answer so many questions. Oh, it starts in 1 minute. Okay, thank you all again. I'm getting the hook. So feel free to reach out to me, and I really, really appreciate the time, guys. Thank you.